Hello, boys and girls. How are you? This is Mrs. Claus, and I am going to read a story for you tonight. Yes, you might be watching this on Christmas Eve. Yes, so if you are, hopefully you have your jammies on. Do you have your jammies on? Yes? Oh, good. I want you to get all snuggly and cuddled up. Maybe get a blanket. Maybe snuggle with mom or dad. And get all snuggly and listen to some of my favorite stories. All right. First of all, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. Yes, I am Mrs. Claus, and I am married to Santa Claus, Mr. Claus as I call him. Actually, my first name is Anya. So most people don't know that about me, but my first name is Anya, and Mr. Claus and I have been married for a very long time. I can't even remember how long, actually. We always get it confused. It's been so long, but we've been together forever. And Mr. Claus and I both love Christmas. And Mr. Claus, of course, his favorite thing is riding in his sleigh on Christmas Eve and bringing toys and gifts for all the good girls and boys all over the world. And that's his favorite thing. But tonight, I'm going to read a story to you that's about a time when Santa missed the ride, if you can believe that. It's a fun story. It's been around for a long time, and it's called How Mrs. Claus Saved Christmas. Are you ready? Are you snuggled in? Okay. This story is by Phyllis McGinley, and the drawings are by a man named Kurt Worth. This book is so old, it's actually falling apart, and it's out of print, and it's been around, I've had it since 1965, actually, if you can believe that. That's a long, long time ago. Here we go. How Mrs. Claus Saved Christmas. Everybody knows how Santa Claus looks. You've seen his picture in your picture books. You've heard about his house with the North Pole near, and his sack and his sleigh and his 8 reindeer. But did you ever before in your life know that Santa Claus had a wife? That's me! Well, he has. She's the reason that he doesn't get thinner, for she serves his breakfast and cooks his dinner. Well, actually, in my house, Santa gets his own dinner sometimes. She warms his slippers and dries his boots and mends the fur on all his Santa Claus suits. And what is she like? By best report, she's a cozy, rosy, grandmotherly sort, with a dimple in her cheek and a twinkle in her eye, and the smell of vanilla and some hot apple pie. But the nicest thing that I've heard about her is that Santa couldn't get on without her. And let me tell you, that's true. For it may be Santa Claus who makes toys for all the children in the world. It may be Santa Claus who drives his sleigh through the winter sky and climbs down waiting chimneys. But it's Mrs. Claus who gives him his best ideas. And that's true. Santa, she'll tell him in mid-November, there's a brand new boy at the Smiths. Remember, he ought to have something that's just his size. Say, a nice blue rattle, just the color of his eyes. And Haverford Jones, now don't forget, he wants a grown-up chemistry set. His parents pretend that it can't be done, but I like Haverford, so bring him one. She knows when the children in the state of Maine are ready for the first electric train. Or she'll say briskly, on earth I hear, the dresses for ladies are shorter this year. So don't you think that the fashion calls for shorter dresses on little girls' dolls? I love train sets. And Santa hymns and Santa haws, but he usually listens to Mrs. Claus. Except just this once when they couldn't agree, and this is the story as it came to me. It was Christmas Eve at the end of the day. The reindeer nickered as they champed on their hay. Elbows were flying, the reindeer groom polished up the harness in the big storeroom, while Santa, weary from the wear and tear, lounged by the fire in his easy chair. I think, he murmured with pardonable pride, everything is ready for the midnight ride. Everything's jolly as it's always been. The sleigh stands waiting with the gifts crammed in. Tricycles, bicycles, dump trucks, toys, and cowboy outfits for 1,000,000 boys. Jump ropes and jackstones, dolls with curls, and sets of dishes for 1,000,000 girls. Books for the bookish who like to sit and read. Baseball mitts for the baseball breed. Kites for the tomboy, balls to pitch. Practical presents for the not-so-rich. Candy for the sweet tooth and chess for the clever. It's just as it's been forever and ever. I do think Christmas will be fine this year. Don't you agree with that, my dear? That's a lot of toys in that sleigh. Mrs. Claus was washing up the dinner dishes and stacking them in the china closet. She wiped her hands on her apron and turned around to Santa and looked at him over her spectacles. That's your glasses. And then she said firmly, no. Santa was so surprised he nearly fell off his chair. No, she said in the clearest of voices, I'm tired of the same old, tame old choices. Maybe you'll consider that my plans are rather strange, but just one Christmas, I think we need a change. And there's Santa, falling off his chair. Change? Asked Santa, in a startled way. Said she, well, I thought of it just today. We don't want the helpers, that's the elves, to overhear. So come a little closer and I'll whisper it in your ear. Up on her toes stood Mrs. C, and she bzz, 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 and bzz, 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 like a honeybee. Like a bee in clover, she whispered her secret over and over. But Santa Claus's look got blacker and blacker. That can't be good. His breath came pop like a red firecracker. His whiskers wiggled and his lips drew down. He put on his terrible Santa Claus frown, and then he said, stop! He thundered, not one word more. Oh, he stamped from his chair to the bedroom door. Me? Change Christmas? Why, what a question. It's given me, I don't know, sneezes and possibly some indigestion. A pain in my shoulder and a rash and a cough. I must have a nap and sleep it all off. It's hours till midnight by the clock on the shelf. Let nobody wake me. I'll wake myself. And he went indignantly into his room, muttering, I've never heard such nonsense. The door shut behind him, and Mrs. Claus heard the bed creak as he threw himself down upon it. She finished sweeping up the kitchen and then sat calmly down with her crocheting. The clock ticked on and on and on, and soon it was 12 o'clock, and Santa hadn't stirred. Oh no. What do you think is going to happen? Should they wake him? At 12:10, the reindeer groom phoned Mrs. Claus from the big storeroom. Please tell Santa the reindeer wait while children dream in their beds. For goodness sakes, he's late. Already the stars are a silver warning. Why, doesn't he know it's Christmas morning? Tap, tap, tap. She tapped at the bedroom door. Tap, 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 and one more tap more. But poor, tired Santa was worn to a splinter. He slept like a bear who was holed up for the winter. Slept like a porcupine, all curled up in a queue. Oh, goodness, what on earth was a wife to do? Oh, sorry. There's Mrs. Claus. Well, she put down her needle and she wound up her thread and she gave one toss of her merry head. Then half to herself said, well, this may shake him. But didn't he tell me that I shouldn't wake him? I have the addresses and I know the way. And, well, somebody has to drive the sleigh. On went a muffler about her throat, and on went the big red fur-trimmed coat. Though it seemed like a giant size too wide, she built it around her and stuffed a pillow inside. On went the big boots, and on went the cap. She picked up some gloves and the Christmas map. She rummaged in a cupboard till she found therein a false set of whiskers to fasten to her chin, till you couldn't have told without a mere casual stare that it wasn't really Santa Claus who was standing there. And maybe the reindeer sensed a change, and maybe the groom may have thought it a bit strange that never a word passed Santa's lip as he climbed in the sleigh and cracked the whip. But long before they could ask or pause, into the air flew Mrs. Claus. I love that part. Dawn was coloring the sky when Santa awoke, and he rubbed his eyes, looked at his watch, and leaped from his bed as if he'd been stung by 500 hornets. I've missed the ride, he shouted, and he began to ring every bell in the place. Elves and gnomes came running from all parts of the house, half dressed, half asleep, and very frightened indeed. They could not understand what he was storming about. By the stars and the Dipper, by the Milky Way, who on earth let me sleep till Christmas Day? 1,000 years and never a miss. But how can the children ever forgive me for this? Oh, I'm ruined. I'm finished, and all because they'll all give up depending on Santa Claus. But sir, cried the groom, it can't be so. Why, I waved goodbye to you hours ago with the deer and the sleigh and the gift-crammed pack, and why, there you are now, sir, coming back. Let's see what happens. His mouth fell open with a foolish grin as the reindeer team came jingling in. And gay as a sparrow, though twice as stout, a little red figure stiffly climbed out. Oh, I must admit, they were hard on me. Ugh, all those chimneys, said Mrs. C. The saint was taken by such surprise, he could merely mumble and blink his eyes. Then he roared so loud that the roof got quivery. Oh, you mean to say that you made the delivery? You drove my reindeer, you steered the sleigh? Oh no, then heaven help the children on earth today. There she is. Now, Santa, Mrs. Claus said quietly, wait till I get this big old coat off and I'll explain. And she pulled him down into his chair. After all, you told me most particularly that I wasn't to wake you up. Though now that you've asked me, I confess, it's maybe an odd sort of Christmas, more or less. I wasn't quite sure how you had things fixed up, and maybe I got the addresses mixed up. Anyhow, Santa, she said, and she smiled, I did leave a present for every single child. Skis for the bookworms, books to read on rainy Sundays for the baseball breed, for girls who had nothing but dolls on hand, nice red dump trucks for dumping some sand, nice soft pandas, huggable and fat, for little boys waiting for maybe a cowboy hat, useless presents, extravagant and funny, for children that didn't have a cent of money, practical presents for those more rich, for studious fellows, some balls to pitch, ribbons for some tomboys and jacks for their brothers, electric trains for the fathers and the mothers, chess for the sweet tooth, candy for the clever. It's not what it's been forever and ever, but I did bring a rattle just his size for that new little boy at the Smiths with the new blue eyes. And I promise you one thing I didn't forget, Haverford Jones' chemistry set. I like that. Oh, alas, moaned Santa, hands to his face, I'll never recover from this disgrace. Glance at the earth and you're sure to see children must be crying by their Christmas tree. Children are sobbing till they wet their sleeve for gifts that they expected, but they didn't receive. Oh, listen, can you hear them? And leagues around, up from the world, came a curious sound. A sound like the surge of waves on a shore. First it was a ripple, and then it was a roar, till the North Pole trembled both fore and after. But it wasn't the sound of weeping or crying. It was children's laughter. Giggles and gales and peals of mirth from startled children all around the earth. Gusts of merriment and cheers and applause, and a chorus of, thank you, thank you, thank you, Santa Claus, for bringing last night through the dark and the cold the wish of our hearts that we had never told. I love that part. Santa stared at Mrs. Claus for a long, long time without a word. Suddenly, he began to laugh. He laughed so hard, she had to tap him on the back for fear he would choke. He laughed so loud that he sent snow sliding down the window panes. When he could speak once more, he said stoutly, Merry Christmas. And Mrs. Claus said, Merry Christmas, dear. Right back. By the wild north wind, he chuckled then, I can take a joke with the best of men. We need a change, and I'm a dunce. All right, my dear, we've had it, just this once. But after this, you better leave the ride to me. I'll be delighted, said Mrs. C. And they and the elves sat down to a breakfast of bacon and eggs and sausages and fried chicken and hot cakes with maple syrup and 2 kinds of rolls and marmalade and currant jelly and plum pudding. But Mrs. Claus was so tired from all that chimney climbing that Santa, well, he just had to get his own supper that night. Merry Christmas. Now, I hope you liked that story. It's one of my favorites. Now, it's probably about time for bed. So, close your little sleepy eyes and hurry. Well, first you have to hurry into your bed, and then you have to close your little sleepy eyes because you know Time's a-ticking, and Santa will be here soon. I hope you get your heart's desire, and maybe a surprise or two that you weren't expecting for Christmas. Merry Christmas from Mrs. Claus.